Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. So I want to talk and demonstrate a little, but mostly talk about sparring. Sparring can mean a lot of things, and we typically call it kumite, which is anytime our hands cross, and that's really what sparring is. But what is our sparring for? How do we spar? Now, I don't script these, and I don't go back and re-edit. It would be good if I could edit, and then we put on gear and do a different kind of thing, but I just do it raw. Right here, you get what you get. So sparring, as I watch other people like Mike from Hard to Hurt or Jesse Camp or other people, their sparring is always something different than what I do. Carvajal Sensei is very much into the sport, and so it's about the bounce or even the sideways bounce. Jesse Camp the Karate Nerd does a whole video on not jumping up, but on having the bounce be grounding you and down, which is accurate if you're going to do it. But if you watch fight sports and watch sumo, collegiate wrestling, high school wrestling, boxing, old 1970s, 80s kickboxing in the Joe Corley PKA days when some of my friends were fighting, and the great Bill Wallace and my friend Bill Roy back in the day, Brad Hefton from Randy's hometown, Don Wilson, Don the Dragon, who went on to movie stardom, movie stardom. When you watch back in those days in the PKA, there are different kinds of foot movement and or bouncing. And then you get the Muhammad Ali shuffle, and you get the drag foot in, and you get the Bruce Lee bounce with the different kinds of footwork and dancing. So all kinds. And then you get the Mike Tyson, who's just very much still and on his feet and head movement, but not a lot of bounce and ballon. So even in boxing, you have the bouncy boxers, the dancy boxers, the standstill boxers, the forward plotters, the brawlers, what they call the punchers versus the boxers. So, and sumo, different kind of footwork than any of those. Footwork in jiu-jitsu tends to be very much more like wrestling, but upright, unless you're pulling guard in a tournament, which is silly for self-defense. But so we have all sorts of different kinds of sparring. How do you spar in your dojo? What is your version? Personally, I like free sparring, which allows pretty much an anything goes aspect. So when we start, if we don't have any gear on, we're going to be pretty much controlled with our techniques, and my footwork is going to be very different than if I put on pads and gear. Now we're going to hit a little bit. I like to allow takedowns, so my sparring is not here, because if I'm doing that and he throws one fake at my head, he can shoot and take my legs, right? So if we're doing the bounce sparring, I go boom, boom, he's down, I'm done. I've had my shot. We can go double legs, pickups, suplexes, whatever. Same thing, if I'm being a little more steady and less bouncy with my sparring, then when he does his attack or whatever he's going to do, I can get in here behind him, and now, depending on, now he stopped for the sake of camera, but he's going to keep moving. So I'm going to have to move in order to get the throw or the takedown or whatever I'm going to do at that point. Then we put the gear on. Okay, go ahead and get some. I won't have mine on, so when he hits me, it'll hurt. But when I hit him, it'll hurt less if I hit me more. But when we put the gear on, that allows us to make some contact. Here's where Okinawan karate split in the 50s and 60s. Their affiliation with the JKA, with the Butokukai in Japan. Nihon Butokukai had gone more toward non-contact-ish. I mean, it was still pretty hard. But the goal was non-contact sparring, stopping short. And I recall back in the early days of the Osawa Cup in Las Vegas, the traditional Japanese fighting, they would not score you a point. Go ahead and step in here while you're doing that. Bring your guard up. Okay. They would not score you a point if you were not in a good Zenkutsudachi, heel planted, hip turned, hikite. This was the only way they would score you a punch point. It evolved to where now I could be guard up, pivot, turn my hip, bring the heel up. That evolved over time in the traditional tournaments. So adhering to a certain set of rules. I just watched Sensei Seth talking about Travis Kelce and his brother's podcast, who would win a fight, Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali? And they started saying, well, are kicks allowed? Are they only kicking? Are we kicking and punching? Is it a street fight? Is it a cage fight? Is it a ring fight? Is it a boxing ring square? Because that makes it harder to circle. Is it a cage where everything's different? Are jiu-jitsu rules allowed? Okay, because we know Bruce Lee did jiu-jitsu moves and studied jiu-jitsu, traditional Japanese style before Brazilian jiu-jitsu came in, but he studied traditional jiu-jitsu, and so you see his chokes and takedowns against Kareem Jabbar in Game of Death and so forth. So what in their discussion, who would win a fight between Muhammad and Bruce Lee? It's like, well, it depends. What are the rules? Ultimately, Muhammad outweighs him by 100 pounds, and as long as Bruce Lee doesn't take him down like he did Kareem Jabbar in a choreographed fight in the Game of Death, maybe there's a shot. So we have to set parameters. So when we spar in my dojo, formalities, fighting stance, okay. Only hit, first rule, no ego. If he hits me, good, nice shot. Not, oh, he got me. We have to get the ego out of it, okay? So we're sparring, and he throws a punch, and he got me. Good shot, good, nice punch, good hip turn. And I'll compliment him on that. I'll acknowledge that it happened, right? Oh, did I get you? Where did I get you? On the kidney, okay, that's what I was going for, okay? So we'll make sure we're communicating. Then as we put more gear on, right, we can hit a little bit harder and make a little bit of contact. I can kick him in the shin a little bit, okay? He can make a little contact on me. And we learn to take that, right? Yeah. We'll get him. There you go. Takedowns are allowed. So we'll get a little bit more street fighting. Hey, I'm going to take that off. I know it's hot in here. So we'll get a little more street fighting, and different things are going to be allowed depending on the parameters that we set. Then maybe we'll do situation fighting. I have a knife. He doesn't. Okay, he came in, controlled my knife arm, got around, was going to throw. Couldn't see that behind that. So we'll do situation sparring. We'll do levels of reality. Now the real question comes in. Where do my prearranged, pretty 1980s movie choreographed techniques come in here? They should. And as I taught tonight, come this side, let's just take one of our early Yakusoku Kempos. The Kempo technique, I do 18, it goes pretty quick. Hey, smash, strike, pull, elbow, hammer, cover. It doesn't have to go that fast. And I don't have to do the whole technique. In sparring, he throws a punch. No, that's not how you punch. Sparring, we're sparring. That might be all I get. Deflect and hit. In a real fight, in street, and I'm going, I don't want to play, and he throws a kick or something, right? Ah! That might be the end of the technique right here. If I hit him. Oh, he's not down yet. Now maybe I grab, that might be the end right here. He's trying to take my leg down. Now, I do the next piece. So I don't necessarily have to do the entire choreographed technique, but I can take bits and pieces of it, okay? So again, let's say we're sparring, and he goes for a tackle takedown. Hey, I'm gonna sprawl first, that's always first, but then once I have control and I start to spin, now I'm gonna do this piece of the technique when I'm beside him. If I try to do that here, like some guys say, and he's got me, I'm gonna have no power in it, and I'm gonna hit my head falling back. But if I sprawl first and then come around, now maybe I have a shot at doing that piece of that technique. So we set up situation sparring. You're a wrestler, I'm a boxer. Go. I'm a wrestler, you're a Taekwondo guy. Go. And we'll work on different aspects. So sparring is not all tournament. In fact, I hardly ever do that. Now, there are great things, and again, who was it? Kempo guy recently did a video on things that we can learn, 8 really good lessons of point sparring, such as taking the initiative, increasing reaction time, covering distance, mental attitude, aggressiveness or assertiveness. So there are things to learn from the sport side of sparring, but that doesn't really get us into reality situations. Like if I say I'm standing here minding my own business and schoolyard comes up and puts a headlock on me. Ow, I gotta be quicker. Okay, so he's not gonna just stop and freeze here. My response has gotta be immediate to whatever I'm gonna do, right? So putting parameters, situations, role play, and then if you do free spar, work up to the gear. I started this comment, I'll finish with this because I didn't finish the comment. That was the division between the Nihon Butokai and Toma and those who followed that side of the Okinawan karate. They were firm believers in Bogu Kumite. In fact, in Toma's dojo, you would do some basics, self-defense techniques, kata, spar. That was a Toma class from all I've heard. This is what Seidokan guys who were there tell me if it's different. But from what I got, it was basic technique, self-defense techniques, which mostly involved Tweety in our basic 11, and kata and sparring. That was it. So with that foundation, when we do Bogu Kumite, which for those uninitiated means I put the sparring gear on. I have the helmet, mouth guard, groin cup, maybe a chest protector, maybe not, but at least fist, shin, and feet guards, and head guard, minimum. So we can blast a little bit. And it was not uncommon, even with that gear on, for people to get knocked out. And you'll see it on some of Toma's old videos of guys during testing. Who was it? Eric did a spinning kick and cut his opponent with the heel kick and knocked him. He tried to get up and he was obviously out. So what level or degree do you want to go at sparring? It just depends on what your ultimate goals are. As my goal is self-defense, I firmly believe in unlimited Bogu Kumite, which is pretty much anything goes, that you can control your ego. The second rule after controlling your ego is only hit as hard as you want to be hit or are willing to be hit. And after that, work on your techniques. So that's my diatribe on sparring without edits and anything else. We just kind of freestyled this. Thank you for going along with the flow on that, sir. And until next week, as always, let's keep practicing.